Kenny here with Gardening Simplified. Today we're going to talk about growing sweet potato slips. Now we've discussed that in some older videos, but a lot of people don't like to go back and see the past. So what we're going to do is we're going to plant some sweet potatoes. Now I have two different varieties that I'm going to plant, but I want to discuss this just a little bit. Now what I'm using for a media, and I put down about 1 inch, and I'm just using a little container with a heavy-duty trash bag and no holes in it. Now later on, if these get growing good and it warms up and I take them out, then I'll go ahead and just take my knife and poke some holes in the bottom of this where it can drain moisture out, so I can just water them. Because once they start growing, of course you want to keep them plenty of moisture, but you don't want them to be saturated in it. So they will need to have some drainage. But while they're germinating, while they're coming up, there should be enough moisture in here. I've got a mixture here, which is a real wet mixture. This bottom mixture is not, it's moist because it got rained on, but it's not that wet. So any extra water in here will go into the bottom and it'll work out just fine. And I don't know if I mentioned, this is 2/3 compost, 1/3 perlite. And what this perlite will do is it'll make it a little lighter, but it'll also leave air pockets in there, so the roots will do better, because roots do not do good if they don't have some air space. If everything's just compost and it's wet all the time, it might not have air pockets for the roots to survive. But anyway, let's get into this now. First thing I did was I picked out these ones that were bad over a period of time, whatever reason. Some of them soft, different things. This one, it didn't heal good. Now I planted this one. This one has a place like that, but it's where it's broke off and it's healed good. It's not a problem. But these are Stokes Purple, and of course they would be more purple if they weren't quite so old. But that's what this batch is going to be. And I'm hoping to grow enough slips that I'm going to have some extra. But all I'm going to do now is I'm going to take and cover these, and I'm going to cover them up probably about 1 inch from the top. And the reason for that is, once these start forming slips, they'll have enough area above where they come off the sweet potato that they'll have good roots on them. And I might have to separate these out, because what happened a couple years back, I put just a lot of them started growing in storage before it was time that I needed them. So what I did was just popped off all the slips that were growing off them and stuck them in a bucket. And you can go back and look at that video if you'd like. But they got so balled up that it was really kind of a hassle separating them. But anyway, I'm going to mix up some more compost and stuff, or moisten some more up, and then cover these up the rest of the way. I've got these all up. I make sure my plastic is high enough, so if I do have to do any watering, it'll be keep all the water in here. Now what I'm going to do is, with this bag, and I use a commercial grade bag, I'm just going to put this bag over here, and I'm going to kind of lay it where it'll stay covered in. But I don't want any ends drooping over, because what's going to happen, moisture will come up here to this bag, and then what'll end up happening is, if it's draping over, the moisture will kind of run out, and I don't want that. I want it to drip back into the container here. So that's the way we're going to do things. And then I'll just set this over here on my shelf and start with the next one. These are our orange ones. This variety is one that we actually bought a store-bought sweet potato when we were in California. It's been some years back, 5-6 years now. And we liked them so well. They were a deep red. So we said we'd buy some extras. So we got 4 extra. We grew slips off them. And this variety was a tremendous, real vigorous grower. It has real thick vines compared to what we had been purchasing when we could purchase. It's got to where in East Texas here, we can't get sweet potatoes unless we order them over the internet, because Bonnie's is who services here, and their distribution center is in Cherokee County, which has a ban on sweet potato beetles, so they can't bring them in. So we've been growing ours. We used to order them, and they get real expensive. So, but anyway, when you're planting these are the nightshade family. And nightshades, and like potatoes, they like to be, their suggested plant time is on a waning full moon. So if you're going to plant them, you want to plant them somewhere around the full moon or just after the full moon, because they're supposed to grow better if you're into moon phases, which this is just a little bit early. But we always plant ours when we plant our potatoes. That way we'll have slips. Now, for those you don't know, and let me show you this first. This sweet potato here, it kind of looks like it's shriveled, but it's really got soft. Don't plant any of these. You don't want them rotting in here and maybe affecting your other ones. But the way you grow sweet potatoes is from slips, for those that are new to it. And the slips come off just like a potato has an eye, and it grows, it chits like they say. I say the eye grows, and then the potato grows off of it. This is kind of similar, except when that grows off and there's little spots all over these to where they'll send out these runners. When they grow up off of here, they'll set little roots if they're in the soil. And these pieces we break off of the sweet potato, and then we plant that little vine that's grown off there with its roots. Now a lot of people, they'll grow these in a glass or something with water. Don't bother that. You get your little pot, throw a little soil in there, moisten it, and grow. You'll have a whole lot better outcome and quicker outcome doing it that way. But you have to start early. Now you don't want to put out sweet potatoes way too early. Normally I would plant these, say, about March 15th. So if I start them now, that gives about 2 months, and it'll give good growth. Now if these getting carried away, it's easy enough for me to take them out of here and put them in bed them up in my compost pile and let them grow on. Because once it starts getting warmer, say the end of May, and normally our last frost date is the 28th of May, average last frost. So I can put them out there, and then if it is going to have a late frost, I can just use some kind of protection and cover them. But that way I get a good early start, and these like warm weather. When it starts getting hot, and if it gets hot early on, they start taking off early on. But anyway, I want you to be aware of how we get sweet potatoes, because if you just plant the sweet potato in your garden, yes, it'll grow, but you won't have any production, because it's growing more like a plant. Now it will come out, and where it sets roots out from that, it'll put out sweet potatoes, but you won't have as nice and big and heavy a crop if you plant slips. So I'm gonna go ahead and cover this one here. Now sweet potatoes, like I said, they like it warm, so when you plant them, you want them to be in a warm area. Now my workshop area here is climate controlled, so it does have heat, and I just keep it about 70 degrees, which is plenty good for germination. Plus they get extra heat in the morning time from the sun. And of course they need moisture, but you don't want them to be soaking wet. Now once they start germinating or growing their slips, the slips come up, and when they have leaves, they're going to transpire. They're going to use a whole lot more water. So then you'll have to add water. But for now, we're just interested in germinating, so we want them good and moist, but we don't want them completely saturated. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this one just like the other one. We're going to cover it over, keep the moisture in. Now normally I don't even cover these. I just put them in a pot and I water them occasionally, but I'm growing so many more this year because I wouldn't grow but like half of this container here for my slips and then have a lot of extras. But this year I'm growing, of course I just did one of my Stokes Purple, and now I've just did one of these, and I don't know if we can see the color in these, but you can see there's still a good orange even though they've set since last season. But with this I'm going to have probably 4 times as many sweet potatoes as I need. But anyway, I hope this is helpful to you. I hope you've learned something from this. And if you're planning to grow sweet potatoes, like I say, you can grow them from the store. The best way to do it is buy organic sweet potatoes. That's what I did with my Stokes and these here. I just bought organic sweet potatoes. They grow on fine. If they're in the dark, they're moist and they're warm, they're going to start germinating. So anyway, if you want to see more of these and follow this up, just hit that subscribe, hit the bell so you'll be notified, and give it a big thumbs up. Happy gardening.